Let me move on then to Ravindra. Ravindra, given your experience in North Asia and ASEAN, what contrast do you see between the two regions with regard to the entrepreneurship, startup, and innovation environments? The floor is yours.
Thanks, TJ, for your question, and thanks, ERIA team, for having me today with that such distinguished panel, so diverse from background, but also from age, and also good to see that very number of participants within this first webinar. So looking at my experience and giving some thought within the disparities between North Asia and ASEAN, I will mainly pinpoint 5 different disparities. The first one, I think, is the cultural environment. Speaking about North Asia, I'm mentioning more China, South Korea, Japan, and Hong Kong by my experience, but the language skills is something quite significant. China is mainly driven by Mandarin. Hong Kong Cantonese is a key language. But if you look about ASEAN and the access for jobs and language skills, I think if you can speak mainly English within all ASEAN is quite the first difference between cultural environment. I think the second point, it's human capital. If you look about North Asia in kind of demographics, the median age is 44 years old. If you look about ASEAN, the median age is 32 years old. So it's much more youngest populations. So it's also explained that North Asia compared to ASEAN, the labor cost is also cheaper in ASEAN. If I give an example, within Myanmar, Vietnam, Cambodia, the minimum monthly wage is $200 compared to China, which is roughly $385. So cheaper labor cost for ASEAN. And then also because of the trade tension, many factories from China has been relocated to Vietnam and Cambodia because of this reason. So number 3, I would say it's a financial capital. I think that to open your own business depends about which country you are, but there is quite a gap if you look across North Asia and ASEAN. In China, for having a holding company, it's around $18,000 including company registration fees, compared to Cambodia, which is only $1,000 as a minimum capital requirement, and then for registration fees is $200. So this is a third disparities difference between North Asia and ASEAN. The fourth one will be more the market, the ecosystem, including entrepreneurs and customers. I think that North Asia is much more quite advanced. I think in kind of technology, digital payment, ecosystem, accelerators and incubators. If you look, and if I provide you an example about the GBA, which is quite GBA for Greater Bay Area, that is represent 11% of China GDP, including Guangdong province, Macau and Hong Kong. This is a kind of very advanced ecosystem in kind of technology, innovations, and that's mainly also a bridge between obviously China and Hong Kong, Macau, and will attract, I think, within the next decade, a lot of investors from the ASEAN region. But if you look and focusing in Southeast Asia, SMEs is account for an average, I think it's around 80% of all enterprise. So looking at all the ecosystem, and again, this is my first difference between North Asia and ASEAN, the number of unicorns, it's quite a big gap between China, which is around 120 unicorns, versus ASEAN, which is represent only 10 unicorns right now. So I think that this difference is also a good point for knowledge transfer, and also to export technological expertise from Japan, South Korea to ASEAN. And finally, the last point that I want to bring, it's also the supports in kind of physical and also digital infrastructures. I think that North Asia, it's much more, again, advanced, even though that there is some quite good improvement in Southeast Asia. I think that, and also I think with FinTech, China have just launched his own CBDC, central bank digital currency. Cambodia also have launched his digital that I could mention later, but also with the Bakong project, his own digital currency. But also in Southeast Asia, I think we saw also rapid growth of e-commerce. That's who really enable business, especially SMEs. But I think that despite of this big difference between North Asia and ASEAN, I think that recently with the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP, we have more, I do believe, some synergy, more than trade synergy, but of course innovations and R&D synergies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, for Ravindra, for sharing those viewpoints. I think it's very salient. For Ravindra, when we look at post-pandemic recovery, just to zoom in a bit into what you shared, what more do you think needs to be done so that we can ensure the continued growth and vibrancy of this ESI ecosystems in our region? Perhaps if you could share on a broader ASEAN perspective, and then zoom in on Cambodia. If you could share your thoughts, please, Ravindra.
Thanks, TG, for your question. Before I share this thought, I just want to underline two numbers from the ASEAN Secretariat. First, 30% of the world top startups ecosystem are now in Southeast Asia, 30%. And then the second one is also a very relevant number, is SMEs contribute to almost 60% of the gross domestic product in ASEAN. So it shows how important is that ecosystem, and mainly SMEs as the backbones of ASEAN. So answering your question now, how can we really figure out how we can post-pandemic implement some key action? I can share with you a few of them. The first, I think that because I think to be realistic, I think this pandemic will probably will be there probably for until I think 2021, until the end of the year. I think that we have good progress right now with the implementation of the vaccine, but I think that government should provide, I think, long-term support to SMEs. I see in Philippines there is one called CRED Act, which is a corporate recovery and tax incentive for enterprise, which really, I think, balance in relief and it's a kind of stimulus. In Indonesia also we have some fiscal and non-fiscal stimulus package. So this is the number one, is to really provide long-term support to MSMEs. I think the second one, we should also, I think, focusing on ESG, which I mean by that, I think that the ASEAN comprehensive framework, I think it has been adopted on the 37 ASEAN Summit, which really promotes sustainability and resilience within ASEAN, mainly within these three pillars under ESG. First pillar is renewable energy. Second one is digital transformation, and I think this is a big topic that we can discuss later on. And the third one is green infrastructure. More than that, also we can also think and try to understand how we can also improve gender equality, because especially in science, technology, engineering and mathematics STEM, this STEM department, I think we find mainly a predominance of male versus woman. And I think this gap is quite dominant within the jobs, but not only within that specific department, but also in leadership positions. So how we can improve gender equality in ASEAN. This is the third one. The fourth, I think, is how we can support youth through program trainings, especially in that new era of digital transformations. And especially also knowing that ASEAN, it's a young and tech-savvy populations who are really receptive to innovation and technologies. So more than upskill, we obviously need to reskills to compete and be flexible within that digital economy era. Then the last one for ASEAN, I think that it's also ready to strengthen innovation within that ASEAN ecosystem. Post-pandemic means that all stakeholders from government, policymakers, business sectors, entrepreneurs, startups, even scholars and universities need to really bring people together to think about data policy, digital skills, and cyber security, which will be a very one of the threats, I think, for not only ASEAN but on the global scale. If I dig in with Cambodia, the government has been quite supportive, launching different program, financial support, but also some program like SME Bank in April 2020 to expand MSc access to finance and also develop a credit guarantee scheme for SMEs. And also many partnership has been done recently with UNDP, who support startup through entrepreneurship training as well, with incubation program, but also accelerator programs, really promote and prevail the best startups from across Cambodia. So that's and also last, if I can give you another example with the Bakong project. With that our first digital blockchain technology, which really promote more than inclusion, financial inclusions, that also is a cashless program. So mainly within that situation, I think it's something very beneficial for Cambodia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ravindra. Thank you so much.